Today, the eyes of the world are fixed on Alaska. It's here that U.S. President Donald Trump, now in his second term, is preparing for a high-stakes meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, a meeting that could redefine the course of the war in Ukraine, shift the balance of global power, and send shockwaves through financial markets. This is not a routine diplomatic engagement. It's the first summit of its kind on American soil since the Cold War era, and the choice of Anchorage as the location is deliberate. Close to Russia, distant from Washington, and steeped in geopolitical symbolism, Alaska is more than a venue. It's a message. President Trump has already raised the stakes by warning Putin of what he calls very severe consequences if Russia refuses to move toward a peace deal. What exactly those consequences would be is left unsaid, perhaps intentionally, to keep both Moscow and the world guessing. The ambiguity is a tactic, a way of projecting strength without revealing the playbook. In the days before this summit, Trump has held calls with European leaders and with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Publicly, he insists Ukraine will have a seat at the table in any meaningful resolution. But behind the scenes, there's growing unease that Kyiv might be sidelined, at least in the early stages. For Zelenskyy, this is not a small concern. He has been consistent from day one. No peace agreement is acceptable if it means surrendering Ukrainian territory. The idea of a land for peace swap is a red line. Ukraine's position is rooted not just in sovereignty, but in the lessons of history, that concessions to an aggressor rarely bring lasting peace. European allies largely back this view. Leaders from Paris to Berlin argue that any deal made without Ukraine's direct involvement would be both illegitimate and short-lived. And yet in Alaska, Trump and Putin are expected to meet behind closed doors with no other heads of state in the room. Critics warn that such a setting gives Putin the chance to dominate the narrative, to charm, to pressure, or to strategically mislead, something he has been accused of doing in past one-on-one meetings. The risks are real. When leaders meet in isolation, the absence of witnesses and formal note-takers can blur the line between what is agreed and what is claimed afterward. History offers examples where private conversations produced outcomes that were later disputed, leaving allies confused and adversaries emboldened. In this case, with a war raging in Ukraine, the stakes are higher than ever. While diplomats and generals focus on Alaska, another drama is unfolding in the financial world. Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency, has smashed through its previous record, climbing to around $124,000. This surge is not happening in a vacuum. It's fueled by a perfect storm of macroeconomic signals, market psychology, and political shifts. Investors are betting heavily that the U.S. Federal Reserve will cut interest rates in the coming months, making riskier assets like Bitcoin more attractive. The anticipation of cheaper borrowing and looser monetary policy is sparking a wave of optimism and speculation. Institutional adoption is also playing a role. Major investment funds are expanding their crypto holdings. Retirement accounts are beginning to allow Bitcoin allocations. And in Washington, the political climate toward digital assets appears to be warming, especially with Trump's pro-crypto posture. His recent statements praising blockchain innovation and supporting a friendlier regulatory approach have further energized the market. To some, Trump is becoming not just a political figure, but a catalyst for the next phase of crypto growth. But where there's euphoria, there's also risk. Bitcoin's rally is attracting a flood of retail investors who fear missing out. This momentum can drive prices even higher in the short term, but it can also magnify volatility when sentiment turns. Traders who have been through previous bull cycles know how quickly a surge can reverse. In this environment, geopolitical uncertainty, like the outcome of the Trump-Putin summit, can become a trigger for rapid market swings. The link between geopolitics and markets is not limited to Bitcoin. Artificial intelligence, the other great disruptive force of our time, is shaping both the battlefield and the boardroom. In Ukraine, AI-driven systems are being used for reconnaissance, targeting, and logistics. Algorithms can analyze satellite imagery in seconds, predict enemy movements, and even optimize supply routes in real time. These tools are changing the nature of modern warfare, reducing decision-making times and increasing the speed of response. In the private sector, the AI race is driving record demand for advanced computing power. Companies like Foxconn, a key manufacturing partner for NVIDIA, report that AI server sales are set to more than double this year. This is not just about data centers for tech giants. AI infrastructure is becoming a strategic asset, tied to national security, trade policy, and industrial planning. The United States has even begun embedding tracking devices in AI chip shipments to ensure they aren't diverted to sanctioned destinations like China. That's how sensitive and how valuable this technology has become. For investors, AI represents both an opportunity and a battlefield. Firms that can supply the chips, servers, and software for this new era stand to reap enormous rewards. But the competition is fierce and the geopolitical stakes are high. Export restrictions, supply chain disruptions, and international rivalries can all shape who wins and who loses in the AI economy. The convergence of these forces, geopolitics, cryptocurrencies, and artificial intelligence, is what makes this moment so extraordinary. President Trump and President Putin will sit down to discuss the possibility of ending one of the most devastating conflicts in Europe since World War II. At the same time, Bitcoin is rewriting the rules of global finance, and AI is redefining both war and industry. These are not separate stories. They are interconnected currents, each influencing the other in ways that are complex and often unpredictable. If the Alaska summit produces a breakthrough, it could unleash a wave of optimism across markets, strengthen Bitcoin's momentum, and open new channels for cooperation in technology and trade. If it collapses into stalemate or confrontation, the fallout could be equally dramatic. Renewed sanctions on Russia, intensified military action in Ukraine, and heightened volatility in global markets. In the end, what happens in Alaska will reverberate far beyond its snowy mountains. It will shape alliances, economies, and perhaps even the trajectory of emerging technologies. The decisions made behind those closed doors could determine whether we move toward a period of cautious cooperation or slide deeper into division and uncertainty. For those watching from the outside, whether you're an investor, a policymaker, or simply a concerned citizen, the key is to stay informed and think critically. Don't get caught up in the headlines alone. Look at the underlying trends, the incentives of the players involved, and the long-term implications. The Alaska summit is not just a meeting between two men. It's a signal of where the world may be headed. The coming days will tell us whether Trump's gamble pays off, whether Putin is willing to make real concessions, and whether Zelenskyy can keep Ukraine's voice at the center of the peace process. We'll see if Bitcoin's rally has more room to run, or if it's approaching a peak. And we'll watch closely to see how AI continues to blur the line between technology and power. One thing is certain: the intersection of geopolitics, finance, and technology has never been sharper. The choices made now will echo for years, perhaps decades to come. This is a moment to pay attention, to think strategically, and to be ready for the opportunities and the challenges that lie ahead. This content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Always conduct your own research before making investment decisions. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to the channel, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world.